Hi, Arcfieldweather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday morning, October the 26th. I'd like to talk about a few different topics this morning. First of all, the latest on the sea surface temperature anomaly pattern across the world. We've, of course, talked about the El Nino, the tropical part of the Pacific Ocean, and how it may have a pretty significant impact on the winter season, the upcoming winter season. Also want to take the latest look at the tropical situation in the Atlantic Basin. Not quite done with the tropical activity yet. We'll talk about that as well. And some big-time temperature changes coming to the eastern half of the nation with a very warm next few days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, record-challenging warmth in the mid-Atlantic, in the northeast U.S. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City all could have some record-challenging warmth over the next few days. But then quite an impressive cold shot comes in by the middle part of next week from northwest to southeast into the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S., probably the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame we're talking about. Even an outside chance of some accumulating snow in the interior, higher elevation locations of the northeast U.S. during that cold air outbreak next week. First of all, here's the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map from the Canadian Met Center, and we continue to have El Nino conditions across the tropical part of the Pacific Ocean, extending all the way from the west coast of South America along the equator, which is this line right here. This line right here represents the equator, and it's kind of extending more and more to the west into the central part of the equatorial, the equatorial Pacific Ocean. And by the way, for more on El Nino's impact on the upcoming winter season, certainly go to the winter outlook on arcfieldweather.com. Also, continuation of warmer than normal conditions across the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean Sea, and this is one reason why I believe we're not quite done yet with the tropical activity. Just get the feel that there'll be another system or two to deal with somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico or near the East Coast over the next week or two. Probably will be the last time period for some tropical activity, but certainly something to continue to monitor over the next couple of weeks. Also, continuation of some colder than normal waters right off the mid-Atlantic coastline here. Really, that began with the passage of a couple of tropical systems earlier this season. Through upwelling, it brought some colder water from underneath up to the surface, and it still remains there right now. And this could kind of normalize, get back to normal at the sea surface level here over the next few weeks. But still, as we head into the month of November, an area of colder than normal temperatures just off the mid-Atlantic coastline. Well, let's take a satellite imagery look at the loop here from the tropical Atlantic. And again, we have some tropical activity right now, and don't be surprised if something comes into the Gulf of Mexico or develops in the Gulf of Mexico over the next week or two. This Hurricane Tammy pretty much sitting and spinning right out here in the central part of the Atlantic Ocean. I think the latest maximum sustained winds right at that hurricane level, about 75 miles per hour. This looks like it'll meander to the west, the island of Bermuda right here, and it's something we'll have to monitor over the next several days. Not an extensive wind field in the southwestern Atlantic that will allow it to meander, and anytime a tropical system meanders, it certainly has to be monitored. But again, this could drift to the west over the next few days. Meanwhile, notice a lot of convective complexes, thunderstorm complexes out across what we just saw a moment ago, warmer than normal waters of the Caribbean Sea. There could very well be a tropical system that comes out of this over the next few days, and it could spill out over into the Gulf of Mexico over the next week or two. Again, not quite done yet, not ready to write off tropical activity in the Atlantic Basin. Well, let's now get back to the continental U.S. We're looking at the conventional run of the GFS from last night, 0Z. This is the temperature anomaly at 850 millibars. And again, kind of a topsy-turvy weather pattern here in terms of the temperatures across much of the eastern half of the nation, with a cold wave coming in. In fact, right now, snowing in places like Montana in the Dakotas, and they'll have a significant amount of snow accumulation from this storm all the way from Montana across the Dakotas into the northwestern part of Minnesota. Meanwhile, back east, mid-Atlantic, the northeast U.S., Great Lakes, unseasonably warm conditions today, tomorrow, Saturday as well. It certainly could break some records. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City certainly has some record-challenging warmth over the next couple of days. But here comes that cold shed right now, having a big impact in Montana, for example, where they're getting accumulating snow. Glacier National Park must be experiencing some significant accumulating snow, and again that'll extend across the Dakotas into the northwestern part of Minnesota over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. Now let's move forward here. The warmth hangs on across the Great Lakes for another couple of days into the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. all the way through the day on Saturday. The upcoming weekend looks very warm indeed. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. That's on Saturday. Things start to change on Sunday, and here's that cold frontal system as it stands on Saturday morning. Really will be kind of a series of cold fronts in the northeastern quadrant of the nation that kind of bring a step down in temperatures from Saturday to Sunday, and then Sunday to Monday, and then finally Monday to Tuesday, and before the real core of the cold air moves in for the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame. Let's move forward here, and here comes that colder air, well below normal for this time of the year, replacing those well above normal temperatures experienced right now. And here we go all the way into Monday night. You can see certainly a delineation here, a secondary or even a tertiary cold frontal system right here as of Monday evening, with that warmer than normal air mass being kind of squeezed to a position off the eastern seaboard in a widespread area of colder than normal conditions. Moves into the mid-Atlantic region, likely just in time for Halloween, which is Tuesday. Looks like a very chilly night potentially in the mid-Atlantic region in the northeast U.S. on Tuesday night. And by the way, by the time we get to Wednesday morning, here's the forecast map for Wednesday morning. Temperatures certainly look like they could be down near the freezing mark, maybe a little bit low in those suburban areas of the big cities, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Again, that's by Wednesday morning of next week. So we go from near 80 degrees by Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon in the I-95 corridor region to likely near the freezing mark or even below by Wednesday morning of next week. Now, is that the beginning of winter? No. It looks like this cold snap will last maybe 3 days or so, and then things start to turn warmer again by the time we get to next week. But notice all this colder than normal air up across Canada as we begin the first weekend in the month of November. Now let's walk through the surface forecast maps, again using the 0Z run of the GFS. High pressure in complete control here across the eastern U.S. The winds are light throughout the mid-Atlantic region. The sunshine will be plentiful, and that will aid in the temperatures soaring later on today, well up in the 70s, maybe even near the 80-degree mark. Places like D.C. and certainly well up in the 70s, Philadelphia, New York City as well. This high pressure hangs on not only through the day on Friday, but also it looks like through the day on Saturday in the mid-Atlantic and the northeast U.S. But look at this, all this blue, significant snowstorm right now going on, continuing to go on here as we begin the day on Thursday across southwestern part of Montana, Glacier National Park, again under snowfall right now, significant accumulations extending all the way up into the Carolinas and the northwestern part of Minnesota. Again, we saw a widespread colder than normal air mass. This is some real cold. It really had its origins up in the Arctic region. So this is a true Arctic outbreak with a significant snow accumulations. Again, Montana, Dakotas, all the way up right here into the northwestern part of Minnesota. This is the beginning of the day on Friday. By the way, here's a reflection of Tammy, which is still likely to be a weak hurricane, perhaps a strong tropical storm at this particular time, just kind of drifting to the west, something to keep an eye on. And here we go through the day on Friday and then into the day on Saturday. You can kind of tell right here by this isobar pattern, there is a frontal system right in this region right here, but it It tends to kind of stall out and waits for reinforcing frontal system, a secondary frontal system, and then even a third frontal system before the cold air finally makes its way into the mid-Atlantic region. So we're talking about kind of a step down in temperatures from Saturday to Sunday, and then Sunday to Monday, and finally from Monday to Tuesday in the mid-Atlantic region in the northeast U.S. Cold air right out here at the beginning of the upcoming weekend. But again, still a surge of unseasonably warm conditions, the eastern U.S. Now, let's push forward in time right here and go through the weekend. And here we go into the day on Sunday. And here's that frontal system, and it becomes kind of an active frontal boundary zone with very warm conditions to the south and east, very chilly conditions to the north and west. Storminess developing right along that frontal boundary zone. That'll play a key in the potential for some snowfall later next week, by the middle of next week, in the interior, higher elevation locations of the northeast U.S. Certainly not a guarantee, but an outside chance for that. Then we go all the way into the day on Monday. Again, kind of a step down in temperatures here. Yet another frontal system lying right in this region right here, and kind of cooler and cooler air is kind of oozing into the mid-Atlantic region with this in this kind of step down pattern. By the way, here is Tammy, probably tropical storm status by this particular time as we begin the next work week on Monday, which will be October 30th. Now, let's continue to move forward here through the day on Monday, and finally by Tuesday morning, it looks like that cold air finally works its way into the mid-Atlantic region, likely behind a third cold frontal system that moves through between Sunday to Monday, Monday to Tuesday, maybe up to 3 cold frontal systems at this particular time. And then we'll move forward here, and there certainly are some signs that another storm can form along the frontal boundary zone right in this region here by the middle part of next week. GFS is kind of poo-pooing that idea. The European model is pretty favorable for something like that to form. So it's not showing up here on GFS, but something we'll have to watch for, the possibility of another wave of low pressure forming on that frontal boundary zone Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. Again, it could, an outside chance of throwing some snow into those higher elevation locations of the northeastern states. Now, let's move forward here. This cold shot will certainly not be the beginning of winter. It retreats quite significantly by the end of next week. We're now all the way out to Friday, November 3rd, and it looks like we'll get kind of warm again, maybe, and seasonably warm again by the time we get to next weekend, which will be the first full weekend in the month of November. So a topsy-turvy temperature pattern for much of the eastern states, with record challenging warmth over the next 2 or 3 days, then a step down in temperatures between Sunday and Monday to Tuesday, and a chilly air mass arrives in mid-Atlantic northeast U.S. for that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame. We'll continue to take a look at the tropical situation over the next week or two. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.